they can, go on and look at how they get a basic Forza 7 simulator and try it for themselves.
Yeah, you can
Okay.
see everybody coming out
Oh,
of start. So here we are in race 3. Got
yeah.
everybody
Got
coming out.
yeah, we had one little incident at the back, I think there. Somebody went a little bit wide. A little bit of smoke, as you can see there. So a lot of that, as we're seeing, is tire lockup. Just, people braking too late. Let's hope the anything that happened there didn't affect. So we're watching the cars coming through now. I think we should have a much closer bunch of cars through the first few corners.
Yeah, you can see you have taken a wide turn. Still in a tight pack though. Starting to see some separation coming out of the first 3 turns.
But what you're seeing is, you've got 6 or 7 cars all close together, all through the first, sequence of corners. Everybody's much closer together. They're able to understand what they learned from the first event, and it'll be interesting to see as this goes on. How close and how long that period can last, that they stay much closer, their attention stays focused. And I think that's what we're going to look at now. I mean, you've got to remember, this is 3 races, so now we're walking into over 30 minutes, 40 minutes of focusing on a simulation, and that in itself is stressful.
Absolutely. Overthinking it, we're trying to remember what you did right, what you did wrong, and how to apply it real time. That's all going through the mind right now. You can see that we've got still got a strong pack at the front of the race, but a few guys they're starting to lose momentum in the back of the race. So hopefully that's not
Yeah.
any car damage.
But we're seeing here, I mean, the Zotac guys, I think Brendan and a couple are really, really up there. They're becoming more, better ability now to attack and hold their ground. They're not so intimidated at the moment. They've learnt from what happened in the first 2 races. We're seeing from this overshot that we got a big bunch of cars here. They really are very, very close, and this is the great thing to see. Look, I mean, here they're all gaining ground. They're all able to hold their own. Nobody's losing any space on anybody, and this is exactly what we want to see.
Yeah, you can see the stem car here trying to get some position here, trying to understand where they can take another gain over one of the cars. You can also see the pack is tight, but here we've got the Zotac car.
No, it's significantly different. I mean, now for me in race 3. However, this pans out over the next few laps, we've seen a reset effectively, and a lot of it's a mental reset. They've jumped out of the simulators. They've had a quick think about it. They've adjusted what's happening, have a look at it, and they're actually now becoming more attuned to where I'm racing. I'm not just surviving. I'm now racing this car, and that is the very mentality we've got. I'm looking at the track image. We've got a great train of cars there on the start finish line coming up through turn 1. It's this is what it's about. This we can take this information away. We can work with everybody. That we're not talking to somebody with a clean sheet of paper anymore. Now they've got experience, and that's what it is. They can actually relate to what happened to them in the car.
Definitely, and we're 3 laps in. We've got all 12 cars on the track, so everyone's everyone's applied those learnings and still, still competing.
Yeah. No, I think it's great, and I think it's great that that group are in touch with, you know, the sort of two most competitive cars. They're visibly able to see what they're doing. A lot of this is watching. Having the ability to understand that car in front of me can go through that corner at that speed. Um, this is what we try and teach. We do a thing called lead and follow often on real track, where you can teach all you like in a textbook, for instance, or on a computer, but to actually see it happen in this experience is invaluable, and that's exactly what our message is through this D3 Sports platform.
Absolutely, you can see right here, it's still got a train of cars going. Look, you see the stem right there in that fourth position. So definitely has applied some of his learnings to continue to gain come up the leaderboard.
Yeah, I
Here's
think
got the
the
Andre.
the running group. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the running group, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, are just nose to tail. I mean, they are really working as a group. They're learning off each other. Um, that is, I think, exactly what we need to get everybody into. I think the lead car, is showing it could have a clean run. It's got away. It is running. Often, what happens in the real world, you get what we call clear air. You're not worrying about the car behind you. You're able to really focus on what you're doing, stay out of trouble, manage the situation. The guys in second, third, fourth, fifth place here, you know, they're watching the front, the mirrors, everything. This is what the car racing is about. This is about managing everything under pressure.
Sure, and managing all the variables. It's not just the car itself. It's about the uncontrollable variables, the people you're competing against, the elements. Um, making sure that you've got a good control of what you can control, and being mindful of those things that you can't.
Yeah, and a lot of it, I said, it's a thing called managing your expectations, and I think that is what we're seeing in all these drivers here is that they're now understanding where their limits are, and now they can fine tune those limits. They can start to learn the intricacies of what they're doing, and a lot of everything we're doing, whether I say in any business, they can know a lot about the basics, but it's learning about the fundamentals in a better way and applying those fine details to make what you're doing better. And that's what we're doing here, and that's where we go back on and on about STEM. I think that's where this STEM education platform is so good. It's taking all the disciplines from it and it's applying it into every business that we have.
Absolutely, you've got to, evolution is inevitable, right? You have to evolve, you have to learn, you have to continuously adapt to your surroundings. I think that's the beautiful thing about STEM and what it's bringing to, um, you know, education.
Okay, it looks like, yeah. We had the Audrain car. I think it's in the pits at the moment. This is the first time we've actually seen a car actually enter the pits. I believe he's had a little bit of damage, and we have built on there as a reset, and they've gone into the pits to do that, and they've come out back into the race again. So that's an important feature. It allows them to continue.
Absolutely, we're a third of the way in here, so probably a critical pit stop for them. You can see the Aldrain car.
Ah,
Whoa,
now
whoa!
now you see why it went into the pits, right? So the car's got damaged, so everybody's looking at it. Somebody's obviously collected the tires. Some debris come onto the track. He hasn't been able to avoid it. He's clipped the tire, and therefore there's some damage, usually to the steering. So he's had to make a pit stop, and they reset the computer. Not like that in the real world, of course. If you hit a tire off a tire barrier, those reset buttons aren't quite as easy to do. So we'd have to change the nose, the front splitter, get the car back out there again, which would probably take a little bit longer than resetting the offset on the steering wheel.
You're saying it's a little easier here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you made it seem so simple, but in real life, I'm sure that's an adrenaline rush in itself.
Well, it is, and as I say, I think it's interesting. A lot of people who drive these, a lot of real professional people. There's a lot of tension in driving, as much driving the simulator as the real car, and then occasionally more difficult. Which is why I think you've seen a lot of experienced sim racers be very competitive up against a very seasoned and experienced professional driver.
Sure, I think for some of these guys, this may be new to them. They're probably freaking out a little bit. Seeing your tire just go come off the car, that would be intimidating.
I think it's Don. Don here he's really pushing very very hard in this white pro amateur transformer, and you can see he's really controlling the car very well. The under braking, he's not locking wheels, but he's losing a bit of grip. He's managing that car very well, and these are all things that we see looking at it, and they're all things that he's learning in the car. He's found a spot where he can actually control the car better, and that's really really important.
Yeah, here we see the stem car really, really just applying those learnings. This overview of the stem car, you can see he's getting a bit more aggressive, but really understanding the turns and the braking here, staying in the line. Would you say that was an overbrake, or was that the right amount of
Yeah,
brake?
I think he did a little bit, but as you see, he had to run very wide. He ran a bit wider there. He's controlling the car on the stem car here. Um, he's using a lot of the road. Now it's not hurting him, but what it is doing is it's getting rocks and debris on the tires.
Sure.
What happens on a lot of these tracks, you get rubber comes off the tires, and the rubber builds up on what we call the outside line. And when you cross that line, you pick a lot of loose parts of rubber off the tires that have been round. So the car becomes a little bit nervous to drive, and the simulators you're looking at, that's really happening in the real car, and you experience it this very same thing here on the simulator. I mean, our factory simulator and the driver simulators they use for learning the tracks, we're within half a second and we're changing nearly 60 different programs, and most of them are so accurate that it goes back to those very same changes on the real simulator from the car, and it's unbelievable.
Wow. Here we see the Zotac car in third place. Really, really just taking some smooth turns and maintaining its pace.
Again, I think here in Brandon, I think's driving this car. Somebody that hadn't in the first race struggled. Here we are in the third race. He's really got nice lines. He's not making mistakes. For instance, there he's using the curbs properly. His eyes are focused on what he's doing. That's a huge improvement. I think here's what we talked about at the beginning. Here's possibly somebody that we are, going to see make some great impressions as we build through the tournament, and that's a very encouraging thing. A couple of issues there you see from I think the American car, but the Audrain car is still going very very well, and everybody everybody is in a much better position. I think that's, as we look at the overall lap, everybody's doing a great job here. Now we're learning
Absolutely.
racing.
Yeah, we've got to, definitely starting to see people adapting and applying the learnings to the track.
We're still seeing a little bit of lockup on the stem car. Some of that actually is created when you're too close to the car in front of you. Um, and as we see here, both of them are slightly over braking each other, uh, and both of them are causing each other problems. So one of them will come out on top. They've just got to make sure that the one's in the right place on the last lap. So this is really, really good. For me, the big thing is they're learning off each other. They're pushing each other hard. Um, again, with a car that has aerodynamics, and we go into that, when you're too close to the car in front, the car loses a bit of grip. It loses its downforce. Here we're seeing the black car's had a bit of a spin. He's recovered. And I think, again, we haven't seen really anybody go into the barriers or cause any trouble. And I think that's real justification for what we've done here, that everybody is really respected what they're doing.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well,
Oh,
you say you shouldn't talk too much before, but that's the Achilles heel is when you manage a team and you think, you know what, we got one more lap and we've won. Never say it.
yeah. Well, it's as we were commentating on it, the black car goes into the barrier. So
Yeah.
uh,
The great thing is recovered, and as we've seen, if you hit too hard, you can cause damage, and you do have to go into the pits, and that's a telltale thing. If we had a lot of people going to enter the pit lane and reset the cars, it means a lot of people are making big mistakes. And you know, there you see a classic. He caught the grass, got a little wide. He caught the grass with his tire. Didn't quite get himself right to reposition himself on the track. Nobody else hit him. We've seen that in a lot of esports games with lots of cars. When they go off, the cars behind end up hitting them, and it takes out 3 or 4 cars. The objective here was to try and get as many of the cars through the events without any incident, and I think that is the achievement we've arrived at so far, which is good.
absolutely. And as you mentioned, it's about trusting the other drivers. So in those situations where you're, coming in a train of cars and there's a turn, it's about applying the right amount of brake and gas and all of those variables while trusting the drivers around you.
Yeah. Interesting as we see the data. I mean, the car in 11th position is only 1 lap down on the leader. When we were in the last race, the last 4 cars were 3 to 4 laps down, right? So the whole group have made huge improvement here.
I love it. Yeah, you can see that. I think coming out of the first race, we had 8 cars finish. Last race, we had all the cars finish, and as you've mentioned, we're seeing another round of improvement. So I think people are really starting to understand the track, apply those learnings, and you know, kind of navigate swiftly through these turns that aren't easy. You can see here the
I mean, here, this overhead
trans.
shot is great because through the last turn, I mean, it's taken a very nice line. He is just using the curb, as you see, correctly, which you have to do, but the car's not changing direction. It's not losing shape. He's really working the track very nicely, one wheel on it, left to right, left to right. So this is a very nice racing line, taking advantage of the whole circuit.
Yeah, that was a great overview shot. Looking at here, we've got Ben. Ben in the Transformer car has actually slipped in a race, so things have gotten interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, that would be it. So I mean, you've got 2 guys that and the whole idea was to sort of have the hare and the rabbits out here a little bit. Um, you know, they used to knowing how to win real and virtual here in each other's discipline, and that's where everybody's got to get to. Um, it's not a case of saying, "Oh, the car's difficult to drive." This is about the personality. It's the person in the car, and I think where are we riding with the Cyber's car at the moment? Again, all running in very good positions, and even looking at some of the lap times. I mean, they're getting quicker and quicker and quicker, which again, as we analyse this information afterwards, we'll do this just like a real race, and this is going to really be a help for everybody.
Sure. No, the importance of data is tremendous, right? It's about understanding, what worked, what didn't. Over time, how do you improve? How do you measure that improvement? And we're seeing it real time right here. As you mentioned, cars are performing better. The drivers are performing better. It's really really great to see. Here we have the STEM car, kind of competing against the Vivis car behind it. These are some great shots, though. Shout out to Forza. Forza's done an amazing job with this game. Oh, and we just got
that could be a pit lane, return to the pit lane. So,
yeah, absolutely.
no, I think as you were just saying there, Carlos, Forza is one of a number of games, and sometimes I think in Forza being one of the first people into this space many years ago, and have produced some of the most successful gaming platforms around in the world, have really looked at how their competition works and how they actually can get the visual aspect of things moving. And actually, the big thing for us as a group was how anybody can get into this. And I'll use that scenario again of the family sitting around the kitchen table effectively with the steering wheels clamped on them and sitting in the normal table can actually do this. As you get better and learn, of course you can progress. But this is a great way entry, and it's a great way professionally.
We officially got our the all-drain car that they unable to finish. So now 11 cars on the track with 3 laps to go. Excited to see
Okay,
how things.
I think Audrain, you look at what Audrain have done. I mean, they launched a unbelievable car collection museum up in Providence and up near Rhode Island, and it absolutely fantastic. And they've got 3 simulators in there, and they can't keep people off them. They're full up day in day out with people understanding, and they rotate the cars around them for all types of cars they have in the collection. And absolutely, it's a completely different way of looking at it. And we're really pleased that they've been able to come and get involved in this. Yeah, it's a shame the only car that slipped out, but that's pretty good. That is a pretty good record at the moment.
Absolutely. I've seen some of the photos from your when you and Simon went out there last year, and I must admit I was quite jealous of that event. That was spectacular.
I think it was good from a lot of points. It was in the Hall of Fame Tennis Academy up there, which for Simon was a fantastic, being an ex-tennis player, professional player. I think we were in the British Hall with Land Rover, Jaguar, and Morgan and various other people, and actually we had more people coming through our platform in the 3 days. So I think commercially it probably showed maybe at the time no brand works really well.
Absolutely. Here we see the Dawson Racing Pro-Am car, and the Transformer white Transformer car.
Yeah, I think it's great that we managed to split the two up, because this is something building for the future. The pro-am and the amateur package. I mean, like Vive is beautiful in green, looks fantastic. I mean, I think the colours some of our partners have chosen for their brands is really work well in this situation. Um, it allows people to identify the market. And I think the guys driving the cars have done a great job in representing that. Um, and I think the footage of switching around between car to car as we move about, rather than in many sports focusing on the top two or three cars, is really tributes to the understanding of what we're trying to do here.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, this is a great shot right here. This is the STEM car trying to take position.
Who did a great job on the grass. We have one pro driver that did a very similar thread at Road America a few years ago, and I think I might overlay that against the real world. So I didn't lose it at all.
Absolutely. We've seen some hard braking as well.
I think, I say it's easy to repeat yourself in this, but I think the great thing is we're jumping down here in different groups on the track at different times, and there's two or three cars all running with each other, all trying to pass each other. They're all making a couple of mistakes. They're getting back. They're not hitting each other. This is really the encouragement that we need to take this platform forward. Great manoeuvre there up the hill under braking at turn one. The black car's running really well. I think black and gold car doing a nice job keeping out of trouble.
Definitely. The black car here is definitely keeping on track, which is good to see, right? We saw one incident. It's like maybe the business car had a bit of a hard break, or maybe came up on the barrier. There's a transformer car. And this time they're in fourth position, so definitely things are shaking up here amongst the leaderboard this race.
Yeah, as I said, we've got some good close packaging going on here within the groups that are there, and they've obviously all learnt and are learning off each other, because the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth guys are actually getting quicker in their lap times. So they're making progress, and that is the important thing. They're learning on each corner how to actually manage the car better. And these are the things that are going to make, when we get into the later tournaments, when we get more cars, it's going to make these guys a lot better competitors, because they're going to understand what they've come into here. I think it would have been easy to have done this not online, not to look at it, but we wouldn't have had a lot to explain. And the important bit is that the learning aspects of this have been really good.
No, I agree. I think as we've been talking through these races, we're seeing the competition amp up. We're seeing the progress in front of our eyes, real time. And I think with a little bit more data, these guys are going to be, tight pack at the top of the leaderboard here within the next few races. We're coming up on the last lap for our leader right here. And then behind him is a few cars that could probably shake up the first few to compete.
Absolutely, I think the positioning of second, third, and fourth of the guys are, if they're positioned on the track now after 15 laps, all but a few different things. They're all in shot of each other. They can all see each other. They can all see where they could have done better, where they can reflect on the mistakes perhaps going in. I mean, we've got a little bit going on there, and you can see how this car now we're on camera with gained position with it. It really got up behind the Audrain car very closely. He's probably under a bit of pressure, as you see. He's getting a little ragged. He was getting onto the curbs, a bit of smoke coming up, and getting like here, So he's pressurized now from the car behind, and you can see how he built speed up because of that. So this is really good. Good camera shots, really good at analytic information to look at, because it isn't only data from inside the computer. Often drivers learn a lot from in-car cameras, a lot from it. Most of the cars we run all have in-car cameras.
Wow, that's we've got a few finishing up right now. So it looks like we've got 2 cars that have wrapped up. Several of them are still fighting for position.
Yeah. No, I think it's important. They've got a race on their own going on, which is great. I mean, the Zotac car's done. Looks like it's really got itself in a really good position throughout the event, and you just got to look for better things as when we get into the next tournament. This is, great.
And we see the Zotac car finishing up. Here we've got the Transformer car coming up. Transformer car just finished crossing the finish line. Looks like we've got just a few more cars left. There's the STEM car.
Yeah, I think Scott driving that one, he's done well. He's he's obviously taken a lot in from the first event. It's interesting. You haven't got anything to talk to them about before. Probably 3 guys we know well. The rest, now we've opened up a whole rapport of how we can, work together and assist and help their learning about how they can move forward in this. And very encouraging, very great third event.
Absolutely. We've got looks like we've got half the cars that have finished up, and the other halves are wrapping up right now. So great just to see the improvement over these 3 races. See how everyone's applied their learnings, learn the track, learn some of the mechanics and the behaviors that they need to apply. I'm eager to see how all of these guys kind of adapt more quickly in our next week's race.
100%. I think it's very similar in many ways, as we discussed it. It's a bit like online learning, which is where the world is. In being able to screenshot and refer. In a way, this is the ultimate. It's because although the cars are all actually identical, behind the scenes, there's going to be a questions come up about what happens and how you can change it, and that's where we start working in the future side of what we're doing is how we can set up programs for a much larger group of people to learn about performance driving. There's many well-established, fantastic driving schools around. But I think what we've got here is we've got the ability from data people, from professional drivers, from managers, team owners. We've got media that can discuss with people how to sell what they do. And we've got companies that can see how they can make their brand awareness work better. So, I think the end of the 3rd race for me, very, very successful, and great to everybody for getting this online.
No doubt. Yeah, we've got 2 more cars left out there. Obviously, the black car took a beating, right?
A little bit of damage.
Hey, it's about finishing, so they're coming in strong. Love it.
But I think it's important that people, again, watching can see this is real. you are getting damage. You will damage the car, you know. So, this isn't just a game you can jump off buildings and people can hit you and nothing happens. This is like the real world. You can get hurt and you can damage the car. So there
Absolutely.
has to be a respect.
Yeah, and seeing how it's brushed up on the barrier, uh, that little bit of damage is set them back, but hasn't taken them out of the race. Looks like wrapping up its last lap, and then overall, though, great performance by all these teams. Here we can see it coming up on the turn. This one's some of the tricky turns
Yeah.
here.
The last turn, as they come up, so you've got to arrive there reasonably quickly to get up the hill, and you're just coming around now under the bridge. And you see, like in a lot of these tracks, you see a change of surface as well. Ah,
Oh, wow.
yeah, shame. Lost a bit of concentration. Ah, I'm nearly finished. and
They're hopeful. They're hopeful. We have to finish. Here we go.
yeah,
There we go. Looks like we've got 2 more cars left out there, so they're wrapping up. Interesting to see how things got shaken up at the top of the leaderboard on this round.
it will. And I think I think third, fourth, fifth, sixth are the interesting points. Who didn't score in the first one and scored better in the second, and then really scored well in the third. And like vice versa, maybe somebody who kept out of trouble in the first round, a couple of rounds, scored some points, but actually became under a bit of a threat in race three. There's no question race three was a lot more competitive. Everybody really got their racing head on, and worked out that I can do this, and I think that's a good thing. We've got a platform, a points table now. We're going to have a lot of questions that come out of this, and very pleased with it. That's good.
Yeah, that increased confidence is definitely shown, and it'll show up in the leaderboard for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I said, we said 11 cars, and we had, I think 9 of them were effectively really right till the end. Good.
Awesome. Well, looking at the leaderboard here, we could see that we've wrapped up with most of the cars finished. But Ian, going into this, anything that stands out?
Again, I think we've got the head of the leaderboard. We've got what we wanted and expected is that our pro driver and our engineering guys, who are both good gamers, are there. I think what we could see is I think Brandon the Zek car. I mean, he really did pick up, and he's ended up third. And the STEM car has done exceptionally well. I think with Scott in it. So we're starting to see a pattern here. From my point of view, as right at the beginning, we've avoided any big, in a way, off-track excursions. We've had a couple. We haven't had lots of cars tangling with each other. We've shown that, by getting through the first corner and positioning yourselves and patience, that results come. So I think the lessons learned here have been really good. We've got a lot to work on here now.
Yeah, you could see coming into that turn a hard break, but was able to save the car from hitting any barrier.
Yeah.
A lot of good turns. Here we can see.
Yeah, that that could be lack of concentration. I don't know I've got who was actually in it that one, but you know, I think driving the simulator, for longer than 10 minutes, a lot of people have never done, and it requires a focus. So you can imagine, in the real world, where some of these drivers are doing, up to 2 hours. I mean, they may stop for fuel for the 30 seconds to a minute in a sports prototype, but they've got to focus. They've got to focus, and very often the drivers are quicker on the last few laps than they are at the beginning. And that's an education to themselves of how they do that. But
Yeah, and so just watching the last lap here, as we mentioned, we saw some change in the leaderboard. So, uh, kind of seeing the Transformer car, who was definitely in the mix the whole way through. What do you notice here, Ian?
yeah, I'm just looking at they're both, the exiting that corner, the lines here, not getting onto the painted at all. Both the cars are quick. Um, this one we're looking at here, obviously a little wide, lost a lot of pace to come up the hill. Um, the important thing for me is that they're learning real skills here. It's very easy to then analyze at which point of the track each person may have made a mistake that cost them a position, or they made a mistake that was really detrimental to them rather than a place. It actually shows that they're making mistakes in their driving style. I mean, one thing that comes out, we do get a lot of tire lockups, so you see a lot of smoke. I think everybody's got to work a little bit on that. That was that one we spotted earlier on where he was obviously under a bit of pressure here from the car behind. And so, yeah, I mean, all in all, it's great footage, good coverage. Everybody, drivers, media, PR, we can all take something from this, and we can take a bit of data and give a bit of advice for the next group, for the next tournament next week.
Absolutely. Yeah, just seeing, continuous improvement, um, taking that data and applying it to the learnings. So, next week everybody comes sharper, more prepared. I think that's going to be a good outcome. So,
Yeah.
no, I think next week we're looking at Brands Hatch.
Yeah.
So that one's in your backyard. Tell us a little bit about Brands Hatch.
Yeah. So Brands Hatch. So obviously what we've done is we picked a number of tracks just to mix it up a little bit. And there's, as we're seeing, there's more in, this is global coverage. So we need to basically get circuits that aren't just in the USA. And so Brands Hatch, very different situation to what we've got here. Very short track, very tight corners, a lot of elevation changes, a lot of corners where what we call off camber. So you roll through corners. Tricky track, a little more technical in some ways. You've really got to be focused to do a good lap time around there. Overtaking will be more difficult. So yeah, we decided to mix it up a little bit. So we'll throw a little bit of British history racing in it. Very old track in history. Ran a lot of Formula One races. Doesn't anymore, but good track.
Absolutely. No, well, we look forward to it. And as we continue with this, we really want to thank our sponsors. Huge shout out to our sponsors, STEM.org as our presenting sponsor. We appreciate the Hasbro and the Transformer support with Dawson Racing entry, as well as Zotac, Audrain Auto Museum, Vivis, America Bourbon, and to PSR Houston, Closers Coffee, and Elephant Tea for their support. We'll be super excited to continue this. We'll be back with our post-race recap, so stay tuned for Pit Talk.